I don't think he did. I'll press that button, and now we're live.
Hello and welcome to Church Online with the Ecclesian House. I'm Pastor Bill, and I am trying to get my chat client working, but I think I've got it. Give me 1 second here.
I'm Pastor Nooms. He didn't introduce me tonight because he doesn't like me today. I don't know what I did.
It's not that. I like you.
Lies.
I'm just preoccupied by this chat client. Okay,
Lies.
there we go. It's 4 over 4. All right.
Lies.
Uh, As always, I am
Lies.
joined by the ever
Lies.
beautiful
Lies.
and well groomed
Lies.
Pastor Nooms. The well
Lies.
groomed part was a lie. You're not well groomed, man. You need to
I know.
clean that up.
I did
And
not.
how
I
come
did
you're
not.
not wearing a hat tonight? No hat at all.
I don't feel like nothing today. Um,
Yeah.
you're kind of lucky I'm wearing a shirt. Like that's the day we're
I'm,
having.
I'm lucky you showed up at all with that whole comment about when you texted me earlier. I was hoping you were canceling.
So it's been kind of a crazy week. My wife has the flu and strep. Her COVID test came back negative. All the other ones came back positive. Um, so she's miserable, and so it's kind of thrown the week off. I've made dinner way too many times. I've done
You guys
stuff.
have eaten a lot of rice.
We only had rice once.
No, well, only once.
Only
You were
once.
cooking. You only had rice once.
Yeah. We had
Okay,
stew,
I'm shocked.
rice,
Okay, stew. Yeah,
uh,
some
rice
kind of
leftovers.
ziti baked dish.
No
Probably
pasta. No
no
pasta.
pasta,
So here's the
no rice,
problem.
and no pasta. Are you sure you're not
Well,
sick?
I made a full 2 pounds of rice the first day she was sick, and a whole
A
box
full 2 pounds.
and a whole box of mashed potatoes for her, because
Mm.
that's what she likes to eat, like mashed potatoes. And when I make mashed potatoes, I put gravy in the mashed potatoes. The
Oh.
instant mashed potatoes, I put gravy in it, and so it's
Hmm.
it's gravy and spiced and everything. And so she's just been eating on that for 4 days. And then I made Sarah a huge thing of rice because I wasn't dealing with fussing, because she loves white rice, and then just beef on the side one night, and then one time I made it teriyaki, and yeah. So I mean, I went Asian, and there's a whole thing of rice just in the fridge. Um, and so a couple big things happened this week in my world. Final Fantasy 14 got a big update.
Yeah.
Um, and so that took some of my time. Cyberpunk 2077 came out. For anyone who was on my stream, I streamed it for several hours, just right up front. And I made no ramen. That's true, Biggs. I made no ramen, which
I
is weird.
don't believe that.
I
That
made
one
no
I call
ramen.
bull on.
I made no
There's
ramen.
no way you didn't
I don't
eat
have
ramen this
I
week.
don't have ramen in the house. I would have had to go to the store, and I don't go to the store.
Okay,
Um,
that's probably the only reason that I would believe
shh,
that you didn't have ramen is if it isn't in the
shh.
store.
It's yeah, it's not in the house. I ran out. I made it like last week. I made too much, and because I don't know how to cook for 4 people. I cook for some reason for like 10 people. Never had 10 people to cook for, but for some
Well,
reason,
that's not true. You have had 10 people
oh
to cook
well,
for
yeah, yeah. When we were meeting at my house,
We're
See,
at your house for the Ecclesian house.
and one time we ran out of food, which was crazy because that never
Yeah.
happens.
Because I
In
was like, wait, Noom's cooked and we ran out of food?
like,
Something doesn't gel here.
I'm terrible at cooking for like 20 people. My wife's like, we don't have pans big enough for what you just made. Um, and so then Cyberpunk came out. Cyberpunk was a lot of fun. I have not finished the main story. I stopped streaming it because I got streamer fatigue. And I had a headache and didn't want to start the live stream, and I was just like, I'm done streaming this because it's a little intense, and it sometimes can give me a headache, because it's so flashy, so much brightness to it. Um, there's I don't know if you know, but there's a lot of stories. Um, there's a huge call out from the epileptic community to fix it, because right now it is not just unplayable, but like extremely bad for people with epilepsy. You
Yeah.
can't get past the opening sequence. Bad, like the the beginning of the game, the launch thing, like the launch icons, before warnings, before anything, like the opening thing is flashy. Um, it's a little intense. It's gotten a lot of bad press because of it. Their stock actually tanked for the company that put the game out. But from someone who's played a lot of launch games and a lot of games that are designed to be modded, it really isn't that bad. As long as you're not playing it on Xbox or the old gen of PlayStation, because then it literally looks like someone went in with an eraser and smudged all the lines. Um, so yeah, so it was kind of a big week for all of that. So I was just busy. Plus, I have a big project going on at work. So with the combined of all of that, I like, and then I've slept a lot because I haven't felt good, which worries me since my wife has the flu and strep.
Yeah. So Biggs on Twitch asked what this is on the wall here above your head.
Uh-huh.
And this is
I already know what it is.
You already know what it is, but not everyone will know what this is. So this year, in the past when we've been meeting face to face, we've had a Christmas party, and we've made sure that we got little gifts for everybody, and just kind of really done it up right. Just every December we'll have some kind of Christmas get together. And this year, since we're not meeting face to face, since we're doing everything virtually, every family that we had the mailing address for, the church donated $30 per household member to Voice of the Martyrs, to be used in persecuted countries where it's either illegal to be Christian, or they're persecuted for their Christianity officially by the government. And so we donated $30 per member, which is, a little bit more than we would have spent on the goodies for the Christmas party. But then also we're not paying for the actual party itself. So $30 per household member to Voice of the Martyrs. And they sent out these lovely cards with a nice little ornament, letting everyone know that the Ecclesian House had donated money on their behalf. We really felt like it was a good way to spend the church's Christmas budget this year, was to make sure that we're getting Bibles and teaching tools and all of those things that they reach out and they give into the communities in those countries where, it's hard to be a Christian. Like growing up in the United States, you don't really see it a lot. You don't, you get some soft persecution if you're a hardcore believer in the United States, but nothing compared to what it's like in a lot of other countries. For instance, when I was in India, we ended up traveling a little too far north to do some of our ministry. And by the end of that interaction, we literally had a mob of people chasing us down the street with wooden clubs as we're jumping into our van and trying to get away. And yeah, it got very real very fast. So there's a lot of places where it is literally physically dangerous to be a believer in Christ and to preach the gospel. And so that's what we did with our Christmas money as a church this year. And these got sent out, and they went out to everybody that I have the mailing address for. If you've ever written a check to the Ecclesian House, or signed up online, or anytime that we've gotten your address, we donated $30 per member of your family, and they sent out these lovely cards. So that's what that is. It is cool, Biggs, isn't it? I like it. You know what? It is absolutely frigid in my bedroom, so I'm gonna grab my sweater right quick. I'll be right back.
Watch, he's gonna stand up. He's not wearing pants. Oh, we couldn't see it. Guarantee Pastor Bill's not wearing pants. Guarantee it. Because he wears shorts. Constantly. Irritatingly. The man always has shorts on. It irritates me to no end. I hate shorts. I don't understand why anyone wears shorts. That doesn't make any sense to me. I've never understood it. But, That's his thing. He does that. I try not to judge him for it, but it's okay.
You don't like my sweater?
Nope, didn't say anything about your sweater.
What were you saying you were trying not to judge me about?
Oh, nothing. We weren't talking about you. We were talking. Me and the viewers were talking about Santa Claus's ugly red outfit. That's not accurate.
Right.
Mhm.
Biggs, is that what he was talking about? See, I know Biggs will tell me the truth.
Yeah, he will.
So,
Actually, I was commenting on the fact that you probably weren't wearing pants.
no, I am. I'm wearing blue jeans. I've got my actual shoes on. I'm fully dressed and sitting here going,
Well, no, the reason I said it was because I was like, he's not wearing pants. Pastor never wears pants. Pastor Bill doesn't believe in pants. And I was like, because he wears shorts, and I hate him for it. And I went on a diatribe about the fact that I don't like shorts, and then made sure to say something as you put your earphone in.
so that I would know you were talking smack about me. Yeah, it's been in the 30s all day here. The high today was 37, and it's been raining all day.
And
So
Pastor Bill lives in a house that literally has paper for walls, and
pretty much
doesn't have heating very well.
Well, I have heating. It's
I said
not
very well.
consistent.
I said very well.
Yeah. So
The trailer that's older than you.
yeah, the trailer that's older than me, but 50 in Tennessee. That's nice. I wish it was 50 here. No, it's been in the 30s all day. So probably tomorrow it'll probably break 100. That's Texas. But today it was in the 30s all day. So this week was a big drop in the game that I played, Star Trek Fleet Command. They dropped part 4 of a current story series we're going through.
That's cool.
It's really awesome. They dropped this new ship, this giant ship that's specifically for one of the mechanics in the game that they dropped a few months ago. And it's super powerful when it's used in that mechanic. And other than that, it's just this really giant, cool ship. And I will not be able to earn it for probably another month to a month and a half because I am free to play and I am not going to drop $300 on a ship in a mobile game. That's just not how I roll. And that's what they want. That's what they're charging for this ship. If you just want to buy it outright, $300. And people are buying it. People are straight up dropping $300 to buy this ship in this game. And man, I've seen some videos of people that have bought it and they're testing it out, and it's pretty impressive. It's a pretty impressive ship. It's pretty powerful. But some new storylines dropped and some pretty exciting stuff in the game that I play, and our alliance is pretty excited and just trying to work our way through all the new stuff. But that's what's been going on in gaming with me. You talked about your Cyberpunk 2077. Is that right?
Yeah.
I have numbers and names I have problems with.
Yeah.
So, and then you didn't really talk about Final Fantasy yet. You just talked about that.
So it was good. So the new raid dropped, which we are a little behind in. We are on the last boss of the previous raid tier, which we are trying to make progress through. It's an extremely hard fight. And then I haven't finished the story. They dropped new main story quests that I haven't finished. I got everything together to build the new gear set, but my friend wasn't on today to build it for me. And I took a huge nap. So let's be honest, he might be on right now, and I wouldn't know because I took a nap. And so there's new. This is, I think there's one more major patch before this expansion is over. So we're at the end of wrapping up the story. This, I think, is the last raid. So the whole story is coming together. Everything's kind of starting to finish for this expansion, which is weird. It's real weird because this is the first expansion I've fully played, and so it was already launched Like they were already in like 5.2, I think, when I started playing, and now we're in 5.4. So it's a little interesting, but it's odd. It's definitely the story's good. The lore of all Final Fantasy games. I mean, even the ones that were 8-bit and were terrible to watch. The lore is still really good. It's one of the things they're real big on is actually writing their stories well. And so this is hugely done. And they brought one of the guys in from 11, from Final Fantasy 11 to do one of the fights. And it is, I've done it on normal, which is like normal. You could view normal as like pug version. Like you can queue for it. It's easy to do. You can kind of ignore the mechanics. Like, if you mess with a mechanic, it's not that big of a deal. And then you have savages, which are the ones you actually have to have a static group for and are very, very hard. And I hate to imagine the last fight on static. I think someone's already done it. I think it's already been downed, but it was intense. It's a different kind of fight because it's designed from someone outside of the 14 team. And what's cool about Final Fantasy 14 though is the main person is I can't pronounce his last name, so everyone calls him Yoshi P. And like P like a P period, not like P. But Yoshi P plays the game actively. Like he actually throughout the week plays on both the testing stuff, but he also plays on the main servers on the Japanese side. And it's really kind of weird because he when this patch came out, he goes, and on the last boss, good luck.
Good luck.
And it was like, what? Because he like he plays a black mage, which is a damage dealer, and he was like, this is a terrible fight for black mages, terrible. And you're just like, the guy who literally has the control to make the class that he plays perfect is saying this fight is hard. The guy who literally knows the mechanic numbers and code behind the numbers is like, this fight's hard.
It's a hard fight.
And doing it, I can see where when you get to Savage, it's gonna be, it's gonna hurt. It's gonna hurt. I'm a tank and I'm scared. I'm scared. My axe
You're always a tank, though. Well, not always, but
my axe is not sharp enough, I don't think.
You enjoy Berserk.
I enjoy tanking because typically in a game, I enjoy jumping in and being the one getting beat on. I don't like the damage having to deal with certain things. But the thing about Final Fantasy XIV is there's no such thing as a tank and spank. And so because of that, there's still a ton of mechanics as a tank that you have to actually be moving around for. And so it's a lot different than other games, but it's very enjoyable. But I'm real bad at following call-outs while my raid leads do the call-outs because they'll be like, front left. And so front left, you would have to run this way. And I'll start running that way and then have to correct.
Your other left. Your other left.
And like, or they'll be like, front left. And I'll be like, okay. And you're like, wait. Why are you behind the boss? I don't know. I don't know. I'm behind the boss. And so there's some interestingness. Definitely. It's very enjoyable. New things to learn and all that. And then I'm also playing like 3 other games, and I just don't have time for all of them right now. And it's quite frustrating because everything got delayed because of COVID. Like these patches were supposed to come out in like July. Cyberpunk was supposed to come out beginning of the year. Everything was supposed to do different timelines, and COVID just went whoop, and everyone went, well, we got to get it out before Christmas, and so everything's hitting, and it's just like I'm tired.
Yeah, I bet. And you're not feeling well, so that doesn't help.
Yeah,
Your wife's not feeling well, so that doesn't help.
I've actually went to bed before midnight the last 3 days, which is something I don't
That's
do.
so weird for you.
I'm usually in bed at like 1, 2 o'clock, up at 6.
Yeah.
And that has not been the case the last couple of days, and it's weird. I went into bed the other day at 7, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" So I'm gonna come lay down. Why? I'm like, because I don't feel good.
Well, very good.
So
Cool. So we've got Biggs on Twitch, and we've got XABJ in YouTube. Anybody else out there, you can sound off. Let us know you're here. Join the conversation whenever you feel like you have something to say or a question you want to ask. I think we're ready to jump into this week's podcast. What do you think?
sure. I actually watched the podcast via Twitch this week.
Really? You watched the video version?
Because Cyberpunk came out Wednesday night. And I was one of the unlucky people who the upload, because of Steam's rules, didn't come at the right time, and I had to... Anyway, it was supposed to be hitting right about the time we go live. And so, like, I had Twitch open to see when it finished, so that way I didn't, like, we didn't step on each other. Yeah. But, yeah, so it was humorous. And I'm about 10 minutes from turning off all the lights in my office, possibly. Because they're starting to get on my nerves. But continue.
Yeah, because you're ahead. All right. So this week we talked about burdens, or, burdening yourself, not burdening yourself. And I took a different twist on another idea that's been around for a long time, to kind of make my point. But we started with this quote from F.W. Farrar. He said, "If we would follow Christ, we must shake off the baser objects of earthly desire as nothing better than the dust which gathers upon the cerements of mortality." Okay, so cerements are the things that you use in cremating things, or that you use in burning things for offering. These are the cerements. So he's basically saying, if we're going to follow Christ, then we need to get over all of this religious, untouchable, and unused things of mortality, and just get out there and get at it. We need to, we can't be too holy to be any good. We have to actually be doing the work. We have to actually be getting out there and being involved. And so this is the quote that, I chose to start this off with. And so we'll just kind of get into this. In the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, and Luke, there's this moment marked where this young man comes up, or Luke calls him a rich young ruler. Luke's the only one that identifies him as a rich young ruler. Both Matthew and Mark, neither one of them identify him as that. They just identify him as a young man, which is an interesting detail to me, because Mark and Luke wrote their Gospels together. They were actually in the same room, living in the same house when they were penning their Gospels. And then Matthew penned his Gospel based off of Mark's, and then added in all the details that he could remember. So it's interesting that Mark would just say young man, and Luke would say rich young ruler. But other than it being interesting, there's no real significance there. But this guy comes up, and he comes to Jesus, and he calls him good teacher, which is normal. It's kind of a normal thing when you approach a rabbi. You want to kind of stroke their ego some, and then you want to recognize their position. So he asks him what he needs to do to inherit eternal life. So from a Jewish perspective, he's literally asking Jesus what he needs to do to be a part of the resurrection that one day will happen. What does he need to do to be found accepting in the eyes of the Messiah? What does he need to do to make sure that he's not violating the law? And Jesus replies that he needs to keep the commandments. To which the young man asks a very legitimate question: which commandments should he follow? Because you got to remember, there's the 10 commandments that hold on. Morta, are you on Twitch and on YouTube right now watching the stream on both of them? Or did you just create a Twitch just so you could watch on Twitch?
Hey, it makes me happy because I can actually see. I was like, wait, isn't that the guy who's on YouTube typically?
Yeah, that's the guy that's usually on YouTube. So his name on Twitch now is Morta, and then he's got the Klingon word for admiral.
Account created 5 minutes ago. Thank you for creating an account.
Morta, welcome to Twitch, man. It's good to have you on Twitch. So, it's a legitimate question to ask, which commandments do I need to follow? Because there's the 10 commandments that God actually gave, right? And then there's the hundreds of commandments that the priesthood tacked on later that God didn't really specifically tell them to create. He didn't dissuade them from creating it. And most of them are based off of, we asked God, should we do this or that? And God told us to do this. So we made a law out of it. Most of them are inspired by interactions with God, but they're not really times where God specifically said, you must do it this way, right? So when this young man says, well, which commandments do I need to follow? That's a legitimate question. He's not being he's not being insolent or anything like that. So Jesus starts listing off from the 10 commandments, but he lists them off in a very specific order. So in the Jewish society, there's this very specific order of the commandments in the way that they view them as being more important to lesser commandments, the more heinous crimes to break them, to the more basically fundamental where, yeah, you should already be doing it that way. And so that's the way Jesus lists these off. But in all through these gospels, before Jesus ever even gets finished with the list, which I find really interesting, that they all three make note that that he didn't get through with the list before Jesus replies. He replies that the young man replies, oh, I've done all that. I've done all that. I followed all the commandments. What else do I need to do? And Jesus tells him, well, you're still lacking in one thing. And the eager young man, what is it? What is it? What am I lacking? What am I lacking? And he says, to get treasure in heaven and to follow Jesus, you have to give and go and sell everything you have and give the money to the poor. And the young man leaves grieved because he had a lot of stuff, right? So over here on Twitch, Morta says he watches via YouTube, which is great for our YouTube numbers. I like that. And then he came over here to annoy other people. I mean, he says interact with other people. And yes, he did say it exactly like that on Twitch. And that totally fits with his character and the way he talks. I love it. So basically, this guy has all of this stuff. And when it really came down to it, when Jesus basically said, you need to decide what's more important to you. Is it more important to you to be right with God and to follow me? And are your eyes actually set on eternity? Or is it more important to you to have your stuff and keep it all? You need to choose. You need to choose which one. And the young man does choose. He chooses his stuff, and he leaves sad because he had lots of stuff. Now, there have been other pastors in the past that I've heard that supposed that he probably, by the time he got home, decided to sell his stuff, and that then he started following Jesus. It doesn't say that in the scripture. It doesn't say that it didn't happen in the scripture. I don't know. It's all speculation either way from that point on. All we have is the account that in all three gospels, he leaves saddened because he has lots of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Now, in the last episode that we released, we talked about in Matthew 8, the two people that came to Jesus and wanted to be disciples. And one of them was like, let me go bury my father first. And Jesus is like, no, let the spiritually dead, let the spiritually dead bury the dead, and let you deal with, keep your eyes focused on what you need to be focused on. And the other one was a scribe. And Jesus' response to him, his very cryptic response, basically tells him that, you can come follow me. That's cool. But I just want you to let you know that even the animals in the field, they've got it better than I do. And if you're going to be following me, then you're going to have it worse than I do. And so life isn't going to be the way that it's been for you up to this point, because scribes in a religiously led society, which a lot of people don't know what it's like to live in a religiously led society. In a truly religiously led society, those that serve in the religion, they're taken care of, they're provided for, they have free food, they have free lodging, they have, any needs that they want. They're invited to all the major parties. It's a big status symbol to be seen with the religious leaders. So basically, Jesus is telling the scribe, life isn't going to be like you think it's going to be. You're going to have to live a whole different, lesser life if you want to come follow me. And it goes back to the same thing that we talked about with the young man. You need to choose. What is your focus and what is your goal here? Because if your goal is in the wrong place, then you're going to be tripping over your feet. You're going to have trouble following. And then when we get to Matthew chapter 19 and Luke chapter 18, that's where we get to the bulk of what we're really talking about tonight. And Jesus is talking to his disciples, and he says, it's hard for a rich person to enter the kingdom of heaven. And he continues, it's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for a rich person to enter the kingdom of God. And now he's not actually talking about money. He's referencing something completely different. And it's the same thing that happened with the young man earlier. It's the same thing that happened with the scribe. They've got this issue that's going to keep them from serving the Lord. That's going to keep them from being successful. And you can apply this to more than just, following the Lord and more than just getting to heaven. You can apply this to pretty much this concept to pretty much anything that you're trying to accomplish, pretty much anything that you're trying to do that you're really focused on. But in this instance, the disciples are completely flabbergasted by what Jesus just said, because to their point of view, what Jesus just said was that nobody can be saved. Nobody. Because what Jesus just told them is, if you value worldly things, if you put a value on worldly things at all, then it's going to be very difficult for you to get into heaven. And they heard impossible.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much what he said. And so we're gonna break that down, because I just said it's impossible to go to heaven. It's impossible to step into eternity with God. And what he actually meant was, it's impossible by yourself. Okay? So let's talk about the eye of the needle. So historically, this is a phrase that rabbis would say a lot. And it was a common thing for them to say when they were talking to people that they were trying to accomplish something, and the rabbi would identify something in their life that was keeping them from doing it. They would use this same phrase about a camel not being able to fit through the eye of a needle. And so it was used so often that they even named one of the gates at Jerusalem the eye of the needle, because it very, very accurately portrayed this idea of the camel on the eye of the needle. And so let's talk about this gate. So if you were back in that time, if you were traveling and you came across a walled city and it was after dark, the gates are going to be closed. The main gates, the main entryways are going to be closed, and you can't get in because they need to protect their citizens from beasts and from robbers and from, all kinds of things out there. And so there would be one entryway, one guarded entryway that was more the size of just a doorway for a human being to go through. So imagine you're traveling, you've got all this stuff on the back of your camel, and you come across the city and it's dark. You've got choices to make. You can pitch your tent outside the city, and, then you're letting yourself be exposed to these bandits and these wild animals and all these things. Or you can take all the stuff off the back of your camel, and you can carry that stuff load by load in through the gate, through that doorway with you, and set it down. What's up?
Nothing. Continue.
Okay. And then you're going to go back outside and you're going to get that camel down on its knees, and it's going to have to crawl on its knees through that doorway. And that camel is not getting through that doorway by itself. You're going to have to prod that camel. You're going to have to pull that camel. You're going to have to try to push that camel. Eventually, you're going to get the camel through the eye of the needle. But the camel cannot get through by itself. And it certainly can't get through if it's burdened, right? So that's the rub. That's the thing that we're looking at, is when you put all that stuff on the camel, you've burdened the camel. The burdens have to be taken off before the camel can even try to go through that doorway, which is its goal, which is its focus, which is its purpose. And this is the thing that we can apply, across the board. If you're the camel, you are the camel. You are not getting through that doorway. You are not accomplishing that goal. You are not accomplishing that task with all that burden on your back. You've got to take off that burden. You've got to get off that burden. You've got to identify what it is that's burdening you and get rid of it so that you can approach the doorway. And then with salvation, with Christianity, with, the main thing that, we're always talking about, you cannot get through that doorway alone. You need someone else who can help you navigate it. And with things in life, that's simple. You just find somebody else that can help you navigate, somebody that can help you take off that burden, help you carry that burden through. But in salvation, there's only one man that can help you navigate that doorway, that can help you navigate that eye of the needle. And that is Christ. That is Jesus Christ. And so that's the unburdening and the eye of the needle. Now, hold on.
I'm holding.
I'm looking at my notes, and I'm like, okay, we already talked about that.
And for those of you who don't know that joke, that's my last name. So,
yeah,
that's why.
That is his last name. Noom's Holding. So Hebrews chapter 10, verses 9 through 10 tells us that when we confess with our mouth that Jesus is Lord and we believe in our heart that God raised him from the dead, that's salvation, right? We're made righteous by the belief of our heart, and we are saved by the confession of our mouth. And so that's the act of asking Jesus to help you navigate that doorway in this analogy that we're running. And so when we look at what Jesus is actually trying to teach us, it's not, because he says a rich man, but it's not that he's saying riches are bad or that having stuff is bad or that any of that stuff. But what he is saying is that inevitably, as humans, we're worshipers. We elevate things to higher than they need to be. We grab a hold of things, we hold them tighter than we need to, and we literally set them on our back, and they become burdens, right? They become distractions from God. They sometimes they can become idols that we're worshiping, that we're putting so much work and effort into that we actually, you know, elevate them higher than we would a god. And that's an issue. That's a problem not just for us, that's a problem for our relationship with
Hmm.
God. For us, when you take something inanimate and you raise it up to the level of a god or higher than God, then you're actually kind of crushing yourself, because I should never, let's say the cup. If this cup, if I elevated this cup to the position of an idol, and I insisted that it always be clean, and I insisted that only I can touch it, and it's got a special place on the shelf that it always has to sit, and I, when I talk to the cup and I love the cup and it's my
Okay.
precious. Okay, that's weird, and that's bad for you, because this is a cup. You are more valuable than this cup. And when you start to worship the cup, that's bad for you, right?
Well, I was with you up until the talking to it part. Because this is my cup, and only I'm allowed to use this cup, and this cup sits in a specific place, and
Right.
it has to remain washed all the time. But I don't talk to it most of the time.
You don't talk to and it's not your precious. My precious.
No, it can be replaced.
This isn't even my cup. This is my wife's cup. But it's got eggnog in it right now, so I'm loving this cup.
I have ginger ale. I always have ginger ale. I try to always have
It's
ginger ale.
eggnog season. I like eggnog. I can't drink too much of it. It makes me sick if I drink too much,
Really, the lactose
but a
intolerant
little
person
bit.
can't have much eggnog. I'm shocked.
But a little bit from time to time is okay. All right. So in Exodus chapter 20, verses 4 through 6, God tells us not to have idols. And, you know, when we really step back from the scripture and we look in a wider view, we can see that God's not just telling us not to have idols because he's a jealous God, but it does say he is a jealous God. He wants all of our worship, but also it's bad for us to have idols. It's bad for us to worship statues. It's bad for us, to do all of those, to idolize other things. I mean, we see all the time where people's marriages fall apart because they, worship this thing, they worship that thing, and they didn't call it worshiping, but that's what they were doing,
Yeah,
right?
they put it above their relationship.
Right. They put it above the relationship with their spouse. They put it above the relationship with God. And so it's bad for relationship with others. It's an unhealthy place to be when you're walking through life, to have those kinds of views of things. And then on the flip side, at the same time, we know that without faith, it's impossible to please God. And idols are a very physical thing.
Mhm.
They're very provable. They're very there. And so any idol that you have, it doesn't really take faith to believe in an idol, because I believe this is my cup and I believe it can hold my drink because I can see it hold my drink and I know it holds my drink. But true faith requires no evidence, right? It requires no evidence whatsoever. Um, I heard, saw a conversation in a chat room earlier about a guy that used to be a Christian and grew up knowing some Catholics, and it's a story I've heard over and over and over again. They kind of got pushed away from Christianity because of seeing people claiming to be Christians and what that all boiled down to. And ultimately, the conversation before it switched to another topic ended with, they said, I want to believe in the Bible, but with everything going on in the world, I find it hard. And he's not wrong, you know, but faith, what it boils down to for me is faith is I choose to believe the Bible, right?
Mhm.
And then I do. It's not about what's going on in the world. It's about what's going on inside of me. And inside of me, I choose. I believe in the Bible, and I believe in God, and I believe in Jesus, and I worship God, and I worship, and da 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 da. And that's what faith is. It's not about finding evidence so that I can then go, okay, well, I have evidence. That's not what faith is. Faith is going, even in the lack of evidence, I choose to believe. I choose that I am convinced that I am a believer. That's faith. And so, and I think that's always been one of our things, hasn't it? People that feel pushed out of Christianity, trying to reach out, and that's what this is all about.
Mm-hmm.
Having a different forum of a different way of church, so that we can bring people like that back in and go, hey, listen, it's not about what that person said. It's not about what that person did. It's about you and God.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all that matters to you, is what do you believe? And that's why we've always done this, interactive thing where you can ask questions and talk to us. It's much easier to do it when we were face to face, but now we can't even do it. You live in Tennessee now, and I still live in Texas, and there's a pandemic going on. So
even if we were in the same city, I wouldn't let you in my house.
Yeah, we still wouldn't be doing face to face right now.
I'll only let Biggs in my house when I have something I need him to do. I mean,
you hear that, Biggs? He's using you.
No, it's actually the girls and the dog. The girls and the dog get very angry if Biggs doesn't come over about once every very soon small amount of time. And with everything going on between us being sick, then him being sick, then us being sick, they were not happy. And but
That's
anyway,
funny.
It's weird. It used to be you saw him once a year. Well, I don't get to see him this weekend because Mom's sick. You saw him 6 days ago, 4 days ago, because he came over because he got let off of work early. So, I mean, it's always been a thing for me. A big deal. The faith aspect. So, the people always talk about, well, yeah, I believe in religion. Well, I don't. Religion's crap. I have lots of friends that are non-religious completely. I spend almost 50% of my day in Discord. In a particular Discord. And because I can, in between meetings, I can talk to friends. It's great because I don't have coworkers to talk to all day. And I'm social. So, I spend a huge amount.
Just not face to face.
Just not face to face. So very, very few of the people in there, totaling, I'm pretty sure about 0, are religious. And, oftentimes people will make jokes in there. Well, he is the pastor. Things like that, because they know that I am a pastor at a church, and they know who I am. But on the same token, they know I'm not the reason why most of them have left organized religion. Most of them left religion because of the religiosity of religion. And that's always so sad to see, because it's not about that. It's supposed to be about the relationship. You can't have, I'm not a butterfly. Biggs called me a butterfly.
I saw that.
It's the relationship. It's not the religion. And the eye of the needle is something that really does show that, because you have to strip everything to get through that. You can't take anything in unless you're just, so it's very much, in order to get through that, it has to be you and the donkey. To get that donkey through, it's got to be you and the donkey. Yeah, camel, sorry. A donkey with mighty aches should be harder than the camel. Because those things don't like tight spaces even more than camels. So even though they'd fit better, it might actually be harder. Um, but anyway, um, it's so important to look at it like that because it's that relationship between the master and the camel that allows the camel to trust him to go through a small hole. Um, yeah, not a biblical donkey. Um, Pastor Biggs used to be, and I'll derail myself for a moment.
Yeah, now you gotta tell the story.
Biggs used to be a youth pastor, back in the day, and when
Biggs, your father.
Biggs is my father. Yes, when you're a youth pastor, your kids end up doing stuff often with the youth group. Well, we went to a Baptist church at the time, and it was very conservative. And one of the youth pushed me a little too far. Now, I follow rules. I like rules. Rules are structure, and I will find ways to follow rules even if I'm not following rules, if that makes sense. Especially back then. I used to be extremely legalistic, and I'm the kind of like the dot and tittle person. So you can't curse. More importantly, back then, I believed all foul language was cursing. Obviously, I don't believe that anymore because, but I knew I could not call someone an a-hole because that's not proper. I was probably like 8. Let's see. I would have been in. No, I was like 11 because I was in 5th grade. So I was like 11. I looked at this person and called them a biblical donkey hole because I knew the line between what a biblical donkey was and I knew what an a-hole was. And so I connected the two. And so Biggs will constantly remind me of how legalistic I used to be because I wasn't breaking the rules. Biggs also did not punish me that day because technically I didn't break the rules. And so, yeah, that's the funny story with the biblical donkey, which is why anytime we bring up biblical donkeys in the Ecclesian house or just life in general, I chuckle because I called someone an a-hole without calling him an a-hole.
Biblical donkey hole.
That's the kind of kid I was.
Yeah.
Which is why when my 8-year-old says things, my wife goes, "Why'd she think of that?" Oh,
I don't know, honey.
I don't know.
I don't know what she would have thought of that.
I don't know where she came up with something like that.
That's really weird.
Anyway, so, it's so important to look at the relationship we have with each other and with God because that's what it is. It's a relationship. He didn't create mankind to then have a bunch of rules and he created them for the relationship, not for the worship. And that's something that so often gets lost in people is that it's through the relationship because that's what he wants. That is worship. Talking with him, talking to him, talking about him, all the different ways of worshiping truly our relationship. Now, you have some of the Old Testament stuff that was a little different because, covenants. But, it's all, even that was about the relationship. It was about fulfilling the relationship and the covenants that we had with him. And so it's just very interesting to sadly see the people who have missed that and, gone a different direction and oftentimes used that direction to control others using the organized religion. And it's just frustrating to see sometimes. But anyway.
Yeah.
Cast off burdens.
Yeah. And the things that, the religious things that push people away from Christianity are the things that quote we read from F.W. Farrar are talking about. The dusty cerements of mortality. These are the things that push people away from religion, not the living truth of Christianity, but the just the inconsistency and the hypocrisy and the false holiness and all the things that shouldn't even be part of Christianity, because if it was truly Christianity, they wouldn't be a part of it. They
Yeah.
wouldn't be there. They wouldn't exist. And it's not to say that, it's not to say that churches or Christians intentionally grabbed a hold of these things and added them to Christianity. It's that it's real easy as human beings to complicate things, and it's real easy as human beings to make things bigger and try to make them seem more regal and try to make them seem more laudable. And there's nothing big and complicated and laudable about a guy carrying a wooden cross down the street, beaten so badly that he's barely recognizable as a human, with ribs sticking out of his back because they've ripped the skin so badly that they're not covering his ribs anymore. And all of these things that he went through in the crucifixion, there's nothing haughty or laudable about that. That is basic dark humanity, just there, just raw, just there. It's real, it's deep, it's dark, and that's the example we should be following. We need to be real and honest and not I say it often in our private meetings, we're not Moses. We don't wear veils. And the reference is that, Moses would go into the presence of God, and when he did, he'd come back out and his face would be glowing. And when he noticed that the glow would start to fade, he'd put a veil over top of his face so that people couldn't see his humanity. So people couldn't see that the glory of God was failing. And often in our meetings for the Ecclesian House, I say that, we're not Moses. We don't live veiled because we want to be honest. We want to be true. We're human beings, just like the people we're trying to minister to. That's why every once in a while when Nooms drops an expletive here on the broadcast, he might get a little look because, we're live and children could be watching. Other than that, we're humans. We have struggles. We talk normal. We live human lives. We're not better than anybody, other than the fact that in the idea of someone who's been released from the hospital is healthier than someone who's still in the hospital. We're healthier spiritually because we've been working on our spiritual lives, and other people aren't healthy in that way sometimes. But other than that, we're just like everybody else. And so we're not Moses. We don't live with veils on. And a lot of that has gotten lost over the years in Christianity and trying to make Christianity some official thing, except it's not official. Hey, Nooms, can you take care of that on Twitch there? And it's not an official thing, and we're literally think about a bunch of shepherds, going out and taking care of sheep. Shepherds don't get famous taking care of sheep. And as Christians, it shouldn't be about fame. It shouldn't be about big cars and big houses and big churches and gold and silver and all these things. Now, if the Lord wants to move in your favor and open doors for those things to happen, then sure, he'll send people along that need to see those things so that they'll listen. But I'm not going to seek those things. That's more of a burden to me than anything else. I don't want to be burdened down by those things. And you know why I'm not rich? Because it would be a burden. That would be a burden to my faith. If I was rich, it would be a burden. I would definitely have a hard time with that. And you've said the same thing, Nooms. You've said, if the devil really wanted to tempt me, he that would be the way to do it. Um, and so, yeah. So let's just hear at the end now because we're out of time now. But when you're reading through what I write and you're listening to us talk, and we talk about people like the guy who wanted to bury his father, or the scribe, and you want to follow Jesus and you want to move in ministry and you want to be a good Christian, you may not be called to be a hardcore disciple that drops everything
Right.
and goes off to foreign countries to do ministry for the Lord. That may not be your calling. You may be called to insert yourself into certain communities that you have reached to and mentor and love on and just walk through life with certain people and plant those seeds of kindness and gentleness and peace and the fruits of the spirit.
Mhm.
You may be called just to implant those things into people so that they know, oh, he's a Christian and he lives his life like this and he does these certain things. That seed may be all you're there to plant. You may never be called to even say the words of the gospel. You you may just be there to be a living example, right? Morta on Twitch says he's not rich because he's lazy. And I've known Morta for a while now, and that man is not lazy. He's funny, but he's not lazy. Um, right. So ultimately, with this whole burden thing, you have to take a step back and you have to look at what are the things that are burdening you,
Mhm.
both in your spiritual life and then also in your physical life. If you have things that you are being burdened in, things you need to get off of your back so that you can succeed. And it's a good practice for your faith life to identify those things in your physical life so that you can then follow suit in your spiritual life and vice versa. So you have to identify, what are these things? Are they burdens that you can let go of? Are they burdens that you need to let go of? Are they things that benefit you? Are they things that don't benefit you? Are they, God forbid, idols in your life that are sabotaging your faith, sabotaging your relationships, sabotaging your success? What are these things in your life that you need to unburden? What are these things in your life that are sabotaging you? Identify them and then find a way to fix that. Find a way to have somebody help you with those burdens, or just get rid of them, or whatever it is you need to do so that you take those burdens off and you can move forward. All right. You got anything else to add to that?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. So the podcast that came out 3 minutes ago,
Mm-mm.
um, it didn't come out.
Huh?
The podcast didn't come out.
What are you talking about?
I said the podcast that came out 3 minutes ago, and you said,
No, I didn't say that.
Okay. So the podcast that came out 3 minutes ago is called Handle. It's about getting a handle. And honestly, this is the second time we've released this podcast this year. Now, I've gone in and I've changed it, and I've rewritten some things, and I don't want to just put out the same material over and over again. But people are still losing their minds and people are still going crazy. There were people stabbed at a protest in Washington, D.C. today. People need to get a handle. It is crazy out there, and yeah. So it's Handle. Go listen to it, or if you want to see my lovely face present it, you can watch it on Wednesday night at 7:30 Central Standard Time, wherever you're watching this. So go and figure out about getting a handle and getting some peace in your life, because things are crazy out there and we don't want, craziness is not what we want for you. What are you smirking about over there, Nooms?
The idea of a person who's insane trying to get a handle on anything is humorous to me. And so it like, I know what I know, and I'm with you and I agree, but then I just think about my own insanities and I'm like, I can't get a handle on sitting in this chair correctly. Like, but So that's why it was like I gotta fidget with a toy. I'm fidgeting with a flash drive all throughout because I can't handle. And I took my meds today, so it was funny in my mind, and
Yeah.
it came out.
Okay. So go listen to the podcast or go watch it on Wednesday or do both and come back next week at 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time right here wherever you're watching, and we will talk about it. Now I haven't looked at the calendar. Just let's look at the calendar right quick and make sure that we're not having any Sundays or Wednesdays that are days that we're not going to be able to get together. Are you good 2 days after Christmas, the 27th? You don't know if you're available on the 27th of December?
No, I don't know if I'm gonna get ganked or not. The world's
Oh,
crazy.
Short of getting ganked, is there anything on your calendar for December 27th?
No, I'm not traveling this year.
Okay. Because, in the past, you've traveled
I know.
one place or the other.
I'm not traveling this year.
I don't know.
This is not a travel year. Technically, my in-laws were going to travel to. Technically, we were going to travel to my in-laws, and then Corona, and so then they were like, "We don't want you traveling across the country, so we'll travel to you."
They came in October.
They did, and then they were like, "Okay, well, my mother-in-law always comes in October to bring their Halloween costumes. That's a standard. Yeah. That's aside from everything else." So they were like, "Okay, we're going to." We'll just come in for Christmas, so that way the whole, both sides of the family, it's your first Christmas in your new house. It's your, let's have everyone together. Well, my father-in-law does have a heart condition, and so we urged them to think about it more, and he's a very logical person, and so when he started thinking about it and seeing that it's not easing up at all, he decided it's not a good idea to travel. And so they're not even coming in for Christmas. So, yes, should be fine.
Okay.
Because I'm not traveling.
So we will be meeting on the 20th, the 27th, and the 3rd. No holiday things should interfere with us doing this schedule.
I thought the 3rd... No, the 3rd is a Sunday this year. We should be fine with... I should be fine with the 3rd.
Why wouldn't you be fine with the 3rd?
It's Biggs' birthday.
January 3rd is Biggs' birthday. Nice.
But that should be fine. We'll probably do something during the day. He normally has to work. That's usually the day that everyone goes back to work. Is the 3rd. So this is one of the first years he doesn't have to work on his birthday. So because of that, we're gonna do something. But I should be available at night.
You should have him. You should have him be on the broadcast on the 3rd.
Make him come over
for his birthday. Yeah, make him come over and be on camera.
I'll see how that goes. Good luck. I don't know if I can get him on camera
for the Church Online.
I'll try.
And then people can laugh at why I've been laughing about how much you guys look like each other. And so they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, he's got a mini me."
This is the reason he's called Biggs.
Yeah, that's why he's called Biggs. There's Biggs and then Nooms. Okay, so so we'll be meeting regularly, regardless of the weather, obviously, because we're meeting from our homes. So that won't mess anything up. So
unless we lose power,
I shouldn't lose power. They've redone a lot of the wires out here, so I should be good. But
it's Tennessee.
All right, so you guys have a great week. Be safe.
Have a good
one. Take care of yourselves. And yeah, now
I would like to point out, my father is a liar. He said Biggs is off.
He meant next week, I think.
Oh.
Yeah.
I thought he meant off. He turned it off.
No, okay. I think he meant he was off next week.
So, all right.
Right. Okay, so now we're going to do what we call the 30-second buffer. Because sometimes we hit the button and then it takes away 30 seconds, so we kind of mess around for 30 seconds. But here we go. 30-second buffer. You're not singing with me. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. Has it been 30 seconds yet?
No, it's been
30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. 30-second buffer. When will this thing end?
In about
30
15 seconds.
buffer. 30-second buffer. 30-second
30-second
buffer.
buffer.
My
10 more
daughter says I
seconds
don't
left.
do enough dance moves in this. So 30-second buffer.
No.
30-second
No.
buffer.
No, I'm cutting them off